Yep, it is that time of the month again when I talk about upcoming game releases. In this video, we are going to look at the games coming out in July, hoping there is something promising to play during our summer holidays. Let's get right into it without wasting any time. Coming July 1st, there is a game called MOSAIC Garden, the flower game. It is a puzzle game about flowers that grow on a grid. The flowers spread on their own in 4 directions. They do it at random times. When they spread, they change colors slightly. They mutate. You cannot just place a flower where you want it. You have to use a watering can to make them grow faster, or you have to dig them up to clear space. The goal is to make a specific color pattern. Because the colors change randomly, you might get the exact red you need, or you might get a purple that ruins the whole corner. The developer says it is like a Rubik's Cube. When you finish a level, the pattern stays for the next one. Also on July 1st, we have Block Sprawl. The developer calls this a spatial puzzle strategy turn-based light roguelite deck builder city builder game. That is a bit too many words. It is Tetris meets city building with cards. You draw cards for permits or plots of land. You place different shapes of buildings on a grid. You have civic, residential, commercial, and industrial types. You mix cards together to get bigger buildings. You get points for putting the right buildings next to each other, or for completing full lines. The game gives you demands from a city council that you have to meet. It is a racing game against a spreadsheet, basically. I know how these games happen. Someone plays a deck builder and says, what if it was also a city builder? Then they add a Tetris shapes because shapes are fun. Suddenly, you're managing 3 different systems that all want to break each other. It might be fun to play if you like doing math while looking at little pixel houses. The third game of July 1st is Double Knight. It is an action roguelike. You play as a chubby knight who goes into a dungeon because he wants gold and delicious chicken. The twist here is that you get an army of synchronized doubles. They copy your movements exactly. You become a crowd of knights moving together, fighting skeletons and avoiding traps. So basically, you take a simple movement mechanic, you duplicate the character's sprite, and you see if it is fun to control 10 copies of yourself at once. It usually is. It is chaotic, but if the collision boxes on those traps are even slightly off, you lose all 10 knights to one spikes block. That is the kind of thing that makes a player close the game immediately. Moving to July 3rd, Roomcraft. This is a decoration simulator. You do not just buy chairs and put them in a room. You use a tool to draw the walls first. The feature list talks a lot about precision. You can adjust wall lengths with fractional wall scaling. You can change the floor textures and paint the walls. This is a specific genre for a specific type of person. The person who spends 4 hours in The Sims just building the house and then closes the game without playing. The developer is leaning hard into the building tool here. Making a tool that lets players draw walls with fractional scaling that actually snap together properly without breaking the collision maps is a special kind of help. If the wall tool works, people will love it. If it is clunky, the game is dead on arrival. On July 6th, we get Cat Mail Co. You are a cat running a post office on a quiet island. The old postman disappeared, and there is a massive pile of letters. You wait for the boat to arrive with new mail. You weigh the packages. You put destination labels on them. You mask them if they are fragile or heavy. You stick stamps on them. At night, the game says the moon reveals hidden truths about the packages. There is a backlog to clear and locals to help. This is the cozy game trend that will not die. Everyone wants to work a mundane job, but as an animal. We used to play games to escape work. Now we play games to simulate working in a sorting facility but with nicer music. The night mechanic sounds like it adds more actual plot, which is good. Otherwise, you are just playing a shipping clerk simulator. July 7th is Moonlight Peaks. This is a big one. It is a farming simulator, but you are a vampire. You have a farm on an old homestead. You grow magical crops. You raise magical livestock. You can turn into a bat or a wolf to explore the town. The town has witches, werewolves, and mermaids. There are 24 characters you can romance. You also have to show your dad, who is apparently Dracula or something similar, that you can live a life of compassion instead of just killing people. You also have to get back to your coffin before the sun comes up. 24 romance options. When I read that, I immediately think of the sheer volume of dialogue text. Writing 24 distinct characters with their own gift preferences, schedules, herb events, and responses is an insane amount of work. The loop of farming at night and running away from the sun is a good twist on the Stardew Valley formula. It gives you a hard time limit every single day. Then on July 10th we have MOTHKEEP. It is made by a solo developer named Evie. The game is exactly what it sounds like. You sit in a nature sanctuary and look for moths. You do not catch them, you just watch them. You look at eggs, then caterpillars, then the adult moths. It takes about 2 to 4 hours to finish. You can buy sweets and flowers from a shop to attract them to specific spots so you can write them down in your journal. The developer put a note on the Steam page saying this is their first solo game. Everything was made by humans and there might be mistakes in the text. I really like that. It's honest. Making a game by yourself is miserable sometimes. You do everything: the art, the code, the sound, the Steam page setup. A 2-hour game about looking at moths is a perfect scope for a first project. It does not try to be an open world RPG. It just wants you to look at a bug. I respect that. July 13th is Ascent to Zero. This is a complete shift in tone. It is an action roguelike where you freeze time. You run around, stop the clock, plan your attacks, and then watch everything happen. You can collect chips and skills to change your stats. You can be a fast swordman or use guns. Time stop mechanics are notoriously difficult to program in action games. When you stop time, you have to tell every single projectile, enemy, AI script, physics object, and animation state to pause, while keeping the player character active. Then you have to make sure that when time starts again, everything remembers its old velocity and direction. If the developer pulled it off, it feels amazing. If they missed a few bugs, your sword attacks will hit enemies 3 seconds after you unpause, or projectiles will just float in the air forever. On July 14th we get BATTLEPLAN. This game sounds ridiculous. It is a World War II real-time strategy game that simulates month-long battles second by second. Hundreds of thousands of troops. You do not micromanage single soldiers. You draw lines on a map to give high-level orders to divisions, regiments, and battalions. Then the officers carry them out on their own. The maps are built using real-world geographic data and elevation maps. The mission can last from a week to a whole month in real time. A month-long mission. The simulation scale here is massive. The developer had to write an AI system that allows lower-level units to make decisions without the player telling them to move every step. If you give a bad order, your units might get stuck in a valley because the elevation map said it was a hill, but the pathfinding code got confused by a river. It feels like something built by a history enthusiast who learned how to code just to make this specific simulation exist. July 15th is TEETO, a 3D platformer about a blob named TEETO and a bunny named Nori. The blob can absorb objects and turn into different forms to solve puzzles. There is a strange plot point about a character named Michael who duplicated himself into 8 different Michaels. And now you have to find them all. It has split-screen co-op. A 3D platformer with physics-based absorption and split-screen co-op is a lot of risk for an indie team. 3D movement needs to feel perfect. If the jump arc feels floaty, the game feels bad. If the camera gets stuck behind a wall while you are playing split-screen, players will get annoyed. It is that specific kind of indie game humor where they pick a completely normal name for a creator and think it is funny. It is fine, but the mechanics are what matter here. July 17th, Frozen Ship. This enters early access. It is a post-apocalyptic survival game where you manage a mobile city. It is a giant ship moving across a frozen wasteland. You have a crew of 20 people. You have to handle hunger, cold, and political arguments between different survivor towns you find in the world. The world is procedurally generated with predators, abandoned shops, and railways. This sounds a lot like Frostpunk, but on wheels. Managing 20 specific people means if one person dies, it is a big deal. Procedural generation in a survival game can be dangerous. Early access is the right move for this. They will need months of player feedback to get the resource balance right. July 21st is Fading Echo, an action RPG where you play as a character named One. You can turn into a sphere of water. You surf through pipes, jump from high places, and mix water with lava or toxic waste to create chemical reactions. The game has fractured realities, so you move between alternate versions of the same level where the hazards change. It features full voice acting. Turning into water and interacting with other elements means the developer built a dynamic chemistry system. If water hits lava, it should make steam or solid rock. If it hits toxic waste, it should explode. Combining that with fast movement and reality-shifting levels is incredibly ambitious. I just hope the actual combat feels solid when you are not busy turning into a liquid. July 22nd, Tears of Metal. Another early access release. This is a medieval hack-and-slash roguelike with a Scottish theme. You lead a battalion of Scottish troops against an invalid force that arrived with a meteor. You fight in trenches, get permanent upgrades for your soldiers between runs, and expand your village base. Hack-and-slash games live and die by their game feel. The impact frames, the screen shake, the sound of a sword hitting armor. If you are managing an entire battalion on screen at the same time, the performance could drop significantly. If the frame rate dips to 20 when you change 50 enemies, the game fails. The game upgrade loop is a proven mechanic though. It keeps people playing even when they fail a run. July 23rd is RUBINITE, a dark fantasy boss rush game. You play as a princess named Ruby who wants revenge. The main mechanic is called focus. You use it to find an enemy's weakness and then do a big thrust attack. You fight cults and undead creatures, absorb their blood to get stronger, and craft talismans. It has a pixel art style. Boss rush games are hard because every single boss needs to be a masterpiece of design. In a regular game, you can have a few boring rooms of standard enemies to pad the time. In a boss rush, if the second boss has a bad hitbox or an unavoidable attack, the player stops playing. The focus mechanic sounds like it requires precise timing. Pixel art dark fantasy is a crowded market right now, so the mechanics really need to stand out. July 29th is Village in the Shade, another farming simulator set in a Japanese mountain village called Kagatsu. It has a hand-painted art style. You do normal things like watch cherry blossoms and go to summer festivals, but there are 3 rules. Do not talk to strangers, do not leave the village, do not go out at night. This is a horror farming game. It uses the cozy setup to hide something unpleasant. I love this idea because it subverts the boring tropes of the genre. You are watering your radishes, but you are also terrified of what happens when the clock hits 8 p.m. The hand-painted art style probably helps create that creepy atmosphere. It is a good way to stand out in a month that already has 2 other farming games. The only problem? English language not supported. July 30th is The Ranchers. Early access again. This is a massive open-world country life simulator for up to 4 players. You do everything: farm, raise animals, build houses, explore islands on a yacht or a scooter, fight monsters in mines. It also has an online auction market where you can sell things to real players using a mobile companion app on your phone. And there is a trade guild with real-world seasonal challenges. A companion app for an indie farming game. That is wild. The infrastructure required to run an online auction house that syncs with iOS and Android apps while keeping the main game updated is immense. This is not a small indie project. This is a team trying to build an ecosystem. The sheer number of features is worrying. Vehicles, yachts, multiplayer, real-time markets, combat. Usually when a game tries to do everything, it does none of it well, but I hope this is not the case. We will see if they can actually put it off in early access. Finally, July 31st, CORSAIR COVE. A city builder about building a pirate haven on cliff sides. Because space is limited, you have to build vertically on vertical rock walls. You manage production chains for ale, pistols, and cannons. You use bridges, zip lines, and ropes to move cargo up and down the cliffs. You also build a fleet to fight the Crown's navy. Building a city builder where the terrain is vertical changes the pathfinding completely. Normal city builders use a flat grid. It is easy. When you add elevation and zip lines, the game has to calculate the height, distance, and the angle for every single resource crate moving through your town. If a pirate takes 10 minutes to haul wood up a cliff because the zipline broke, your cannon factory stops working. It looks very interesting, but it sounds like a logistical headache to play and a technical nightmare to code. So that is July. We have people making tiny games and people building massive online economies for country ranches. We have vampires, pirates, and a month-long simulation of World War II. Let me know in the comments if any of these caught your eye, or if you are just going to spend your summer outside away from screens. Probably a better choice, honestly. Thanks for watching.